All right, so let's talk about the housing project. So this has been a whirlwind. I have never done anything quite so crazy, where things are just shifting all of the time, and it's pretty exciting. It's also an opportunity to see the worst of American capitalism at play, but it's been quite impressive. Um, we as a parish decided that we are going to serve a particular population. So we as a parish decided that we wanted to do 50% um, uh, 30 MFI, which is 30 medium family income, which really is in human language, that is very, very low income. And we wanted to do 50% 60 MFI. So that's very low income. So we decided as a parish that actually we want 100% of the housing that we build to be affordable or very, very affordable. Then Nick and Steve, who are the partners for Second Stories, did a little bit of more number crunching. And one of the other values that we've had as a parish is being able to provide housing for people who have been displaced from the neighborhood. So specifically African Americans who have been displaced from the Albina Elliott neighborhood. The reality is in Portland that impoverished African Americans are not at 60 MFI. They are at 50 MFI. And so if we open our housing to 60 MFI, we will actually not be able to target the culturally specific group that we want to target. That is the language that the city of Portland uses, is culturally specific housing. And so we made a decision to actually do 30 to 50 MFI so that we are, as a parish, committing ourselves to not only affordable and very affordable, but we are also doing our best to make sure that that affordable housing is available to African Americans so that the neighborhood has a connection to its historical past. Now, because a lot of this money is federally funded, we have to be a little bit careful about how we talk about that. But this is one way to make sure that we are doing culturally specific housing. So our partners for that at this point, now again, all of these things change depending on if we actually get funding from various sources. But our partners currently are a focus on, with our focus on African American seniors, it's Northwest Pilot Project and PCRI. And then we also will be able to work with a group that is specifically around people who are at risk of experiencing homelessness. So this could be, for instance, survivors of domestic violence. To get out of that situation, they may be at risk of homelessness. And so we may be able to offer a place for them. Now that depends on the size of the units that we can build and how many rooms they are. But currently, this is the focus of who we will build housing for. Now I want to show you some pictures. And I'm going to do these a little bit quickly. We've been going through a lot of options for what we can actually build on our property. So you can see here, here's Rodney. This here, option one, is if we were to build something only on the parking lot. Now these pictures are not meant to be pretty right now because we're not in that phase. We're just in the phase of what can we build? What space do we have? Option two is if we were able to rebuild the church as a part of the process, which means that the church, would be on the first level. There's a nice little bell tower here. If we were able to rebuild the church and build both on the church where the church building is and the parking lot, that's option two. Option three is if we can purchase the house next door. So we are trying to purchase that. We're in active negotiations with the neighbors. Option three is purchase the house next door, build on the parking lot and that property, but keep the current building. Option four is we take everything down and we build on all of it. Okay. Those are the four options that we've been working with. Now, buying the property next door significantly affects the number of units that we can build and the operating income. So if we If we do not have the property next door, or depending on the circumstances under which we get the property next door, we will probably get around $40,000 of income. If we have the property next door, it could increase the income by $50,000. So that's a significant shift, because basically it's sort of the lease that we would be getting on the units built on the land there. So that's partly why we're interested in the property. But the other thing is, and frankly, the thing that is more important is that house next door represents 50 units of livable housing. So we can build 50 more units of housing if we own that property. That's a significant number of homes for people to live in. Now, we have basically decided, for a variety of reasons, well, the biggest reason is, if we were to take the church down, we cannot get affordable housing money to rebuild that church. We would need to raise that money ourselves. And the likelihood that we would be able to raise about the $1 to $2 million it would cost us to basically rebuild take this down and rebuild from the ground up, the likelihood that we can get that money is almost zero, unless some of you know someone with deep pockets. So right now we're actually eliminating options options 2 and 4, I believe is what it is. And we are working with the premise that we're going to keep this building. And that is why we have applied for grants specifically to cover things like fixing the roof. So this is one option of what it could look like if we just build on the parking lot. This gives you the estimated development cost. Before you have a heart attack over these numbers, know that this is exactly what we are applying for funding for. I want you to note this $170,000 figure right here. So this is what it would cost us, basically, because we have to replace our roof. And I think in this case, is it this one? No. Okay. We would replace the roof. So that's what this cost is. This $170,000 is basically money that we would need to come up with in some way. So this could be the grant that we've applied for capital costs. This could be a capital campaign that we may need to run. Option 2. Oh, and then I'm sorry. And then there's right here. This gives you an idea of the kind of units that we would be able to build in this. So we've got 17 studios, 31 one-bedroom units. Now this may vary a little bit with various configurations, but total units would be 48 units. Option 1.2 is very similar, except that we've taken out the classroom sacristy wing. We would rebuild that as a part of the first floor of the new building. There's a little labyrinth in there. So we could build, say, a memorial garden, rose garden labyrinth, because we'd like to preserve all of those roses that we have. What if we made a beautiful garden that people could share? Also a memorial garden in which we could place the ashes of our friends and family. And then we have a building that's slightly bigger, gives us a little bit more units. Note here, our direct cost goes up significantly because we would have to figure out how to fund the rebuilding of the classroom. Now, I don't think it's impossible that there's money out there for that. We would just have to figure out how to get that money. Option 3 is if we own the property next door. So in this option, we're just building in an L-shaped around the existing sanctuary. Again, this figure right here is the repairs that we need to do on the existing sanctuary. And then option 3.2 takes out the classroom wing. We would need to rebuild that because we do need that space. That isn't optional for us as a parish. We need a classroom wing. Frankly, we would be building in additional storage space for things like the Hand Up project because we really don't have the storage to support it long term. And we're trying to figure out how to deal with that when we all come back together. And so we would need to raise this money, but it gives us some green space and a kind of courtyard in the middle area that we would be able to share with our neighbors. This is an overview of the options. Now, I know I'm going through all of this very quickly. I just wanted you to see it. And then this, again, will be available for those of you who really want to nerd out on all these details. But this summarizes kind of the various options, how much they're going to cost, all of which we're, getting loans with, federal loans with our partners and whatnot. And then the direct cost to St. Philip, kind of what we would need to raise, independent of any federal affordable housing subsidy. I shouldn't just say federal because they come from the state as well. This gives an idea of the cash flow that might come out of the project. And this number depends significantly on both some negotiations that are ongoing about the cost of the lease, because we're working with partners, but also, how many units we decide to make available at what MFI. So the lower income we have, the less money, the lower income residents we have, the less money we make. And that may be a part of our call as a parish, that, we're not in this primarily for the money. I think it's a good idea for us to figure out how to have something that helps sustain our life together. This will never cover all of our life together. But I think that we also need to weigh that against actually building homes for people. And then this gives you an idea of the total unit count. One of the things that we're committed to is not maxing out the unit that we could according to city zoning, because we don't want to create a really big hulking, highly efficient unit, highly efficient building. We want to weigh both the livability of the neighbors and the neighbors around the building and the neighbors in the building with maximizing what we can in terms of providing units for housing. Just some facts right now, kind of where we're at. So right now, our development partners are currently Second Stories, which is a 2-person firm committed to doing affordable housing in the northeast corner of Portland, and committed to equity. They have been amazing to work with. They are, I think, genuinely interested in this as an ethical project, not a money-making project. And I have multiple reasons to believe that at this point. And then PCRI, which is a larger development company organization that's been doing a lot of work in the Northeast Portland area, Black run business. So part of our commitment is to try to work with partners who are Black. And so with PCRI, we are able to do that. Second Stories, Steve and Nick are both a very white gentlemen, and they say that frequently. Property management, so long-term property management of the actual property itself, so rentals, maintenance and whatnot, would be PCRI right now. And then our service partners, so this is going to be a really important relationship for us, so the people who actually provide the services and help care for the neighbors, that right now it's Urban League and Northwest Pilot Project. And these are 2 organizations that we're going to need to develop a relationship with, because we're going to be in each other's space, and the decisions they make will affect our livability as a parish, and the decisions we make, we want to be able to support the services that they are providing. So we are going to, as a parish, need to develop relationships with all of our partners, but especially the management and the service partners. I think we all know that that's important, but we're gonna need to make it a real effort to do that together. Zoning, the BPS with the city of Portland has actually recommended officially now, they've sent that to the city council, that our property and the property next door be upzoned to CM3, which is what allows us to do some of this flexible building. Just funding our financial stack. So all that money that I showed you earlier, it comes from what's called a stack, because there's lots of different funding sources in that stack, and there's lots of layers in that stack. One of the layers is the Metro Housing Bond, City of Portland. We applied for that on December 1st. We found out last week that we did not get it. And at first that sounds terrible, but it's not. The City of Portland intended that bond money to fund the end of a stack. So typically when a stack is put together, you get funding from a federal source and you get funding from maybe a large state source, and there's a little bit of a gap, right? There's a couple, $1.5 million gap, or a couple $100,000 gap between all those other sources of funding and what you actually need to build it. And the City of Portland intended that bond to fill that gap. The thing is, we don't have our stack in place yet. Okay, so we're in the process of putting that together. And so basically they said, this is a great project. We are very excited for what you're doing. You need to reapply when you have your stack in place. And we definitely want to consider it. So They liked it. It also put us on the radar. You know, PCRI, they are on the radar. Reach, they are on the radar of the city of Portland. They are big affordable housing developers. St. Philip is not on the radar of the city of Portland as an affordable housing builder. And so this kind of said, hey, we are here and we are actually serious about what we're doing. And that is great news because it means that we're developing the kind of relationships and partnerships in the city that we need to, because this isn't all just about formal applications. There's relationships and networking that helps in the actual conversations when people make decisions. And when they know St. Philip is serious and on board, they're like, hey, this is an organization we want to give our funding to. So it's good. It's not, I would have been nice if we got it, but it's good things came out of that application process. On January 15th, whoops, sorry. The fabulous Sarah Groeschel and Carl Brodginski put together an application for the African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund. This is a national organization, a part of the National Trust. And they are giving money of up to $150,000 for capital costs. And so we decided to go ahead and apply to see if we could get money to help fund our roof and all the repairs that kind of go with that. And we've put some lighting issues, there's some electrical and heating issues that we would like to get repaired. And so we have applied for that. We just finished that, haven't heard anything. That would be really exciting if we got that. And then on February 3rd, so coming up in a week, a little over a week, is the Local Innovation and Fast Track. This is a really big funding opportunity with the state of Oregon. Our pre-application is due on February 3rd. So we are actively applying for all of this money, and we will continue to apply. Some of this, basically Second Stories handled the application process for the Metro Housing Bond and the Local Innovation and Fast Track. It's called LIFT is the short name for it. You know, we've supplied a lot of information, but they kind of put it all together. St. Philip's, basically Carl, Sarah, and I basically did this African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund. And so if you know of other grants, if you have relationships with organizations like Meyer Memorial Trust or Oregon Community Fund, let me know, because we need to work those relationships and let them know that we're here and that we are looking for funding. And sometimes grant organizations are able to say, you should, if they know that we're there, they can recommend to us places to apply for funding. So that's a part of kind of all this project that we're doing. But let us harness this energy to talk about our housing. So we haven't really known what to call it.
Annual meeting church.
We don't know what to name our housing project. And one of the things that our partners have done is they've named their housing. So you can see on the screen, PCRI has named, you know, what they're building, and we're building in partnership with them to a certain degree. Is
get your order in?
Jerry, I'm going to silence you here for a minute. Actually, Aaron, could you silence Jerry? We don't need to hear the lunch order. Sorry. So we need to name our home. We need something to make it sound a little bit more catchy. And Kafori Court is what PCRI is naming their section of the build. Grace Memorial over by Lloyd Center and Episcopal Church, they're building Grace Commons. St. Francis Place, you know, that amazing park that used to be next to St. Francis Catholic Church is now an amazing affordable housing shelter or affordable housing building. And it's just St. Francis Place. Well, we need a name for ourselves. And so the committee of folks who I will introduce later on, I realize I haven't named them all, the committee of folks who have been doing a lot of the legwork and kind of brainstorming and working with 11 Community Land and Housing Coalition, we spent some time brainstorming some names. Like, what do we want to call ourselves? And the names that energize us are kind of what you see here. And I am actually going to, I'm going to let Sarah talk about this, and then she's actually going to lead us in an activity where we decide together what we would like to name our community. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen. Or Sarah, is there anything you want to say about this slide before I stop sharing it?
Yes. So keep that slide up for a moment.
Okay.
Basically, I've divided up the in lovely post-it notes, kind of the names that we're talking about, and then kind of the adjacent words. So the names that really came forward in the group were Diaz. Am I pronouncing that right? Diaz. Okay. It's written a little bit differently. And then Leo and Stone, and then different versions of Mother Alcina. And so I wanted first, I know that folks saw them, if there are any people who have other ideas, other names that really they feel like need to be considered.
Can I stop sharing this slide now, Sarah?
You can stop because I want to see hands if we've got them.
Yep. So this is your opportunity to jump in and talk about how we want to name the place. So anybody we should name it after, a saint you feel strongly about, an idea, this is your chance.
Right. And we don't have to add to this list. Mother Alcina.
Absalom's place.
Absalom?
Absalom Jones, yes.
Okay. ABSALOM.
Yes.
You're not going to be safe for my handwriting. And feel free to correct my spelling and pronunciation anytime. Are there any other names that need to be added to this list?
Is the Deacon's place, do you have that?
No? Or how about Philip's place?
Uh-huh.
Or Phil's place.
I'm going to keep Philip for now. We can always shorten it later. Okay.
Phillips.
The formal name and the nickname may be slightly out of our control, but the formal name too. So I heard someone else.
I said St. Philip's.
Okay.
Just name it after the church.
So hopefully we're going to get shorter rather than longer lists of things eventually. Is there any other names that pop out at people?
I would add Commons to the end of St. Philip's.
Mhm.
No thinking about endings yet.
Oh, no
Wait a
ending. Okay.
We're going to get there, but one thing at a time. So, or we're going to try one thing at a time. You all made my list a little bit messier. Actually. And so I'm going to spotlight, and hopefully you can see. Facilitating on Zoom, I'm missing my whiteboard and my Post-its, but I get either one or the other, right? So, see if I can get this all in the screen. Oh,
You lost them.
And go back a little bit. You can hold it back a little, Sarah. We can see it. There you go.
all right. So I'm showing you the list that you all just talked about, and then thinking whether or not does anyone want to advocate strongly for one of these names? Either for or against.
Are we voting today?
We will see where we get. I'm going to try to facilitate a conversation so that we can, let's see where we end up. So we're not necessarily voting, but I want to hear if people have, quite yet, I want to hear if people have strong feelings one way or the other about those names, like which ones. There was definitely more energy in our meeting around some names versus others. And so I want to invite people to share their thoughts on any of the names. You want to show
My comment would be that all the names are wonderful, and I really don't care, but I'm just thinking, since it's going to be attached to St. Philip's, maybe it should have St. Philip's name in it.
That's definitely a possibility. I think that also a lot of we're still going to have the church there with the church name. That's not going away. So
But
just
it's still part of, it's still the block of St. Philip's there.
Yeah.
So
okay.
That's
And
just my thought. But like I said, all of them are good. I don't have any problems, whatever everybody wants to do.
advocating for St. Philip because it is the church. It has been obscured in the neighborhood. Lots of people still don't even know St. Philip exists. And if there's a huge edifice around the church, I would not like it to be lost. And if this is an effort of the church, I would like that to reflect that this is a St. Philip community, something done by the church, the members of the church, and the wider community, to make a statement right here in Portland.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
And if we're going to get a grant from the African American, this also fits right in there. St. Philip's is an African American church. So that's the other part.
Bernadine, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, I was saying, since we have so many wonderful names there, that oh, I lost the word. Whichever design that we choose, that maybe we can have different names in halls, like this is a specific hall, has that name, so that we can have an opportunity to represent more than one member
Right.
of the church.
That's a good idea.
I agree with
So
that.
even the
That's a
garden,
good
if we
idea.
can have a name for the garden,
Mhm.
we can have a name for the first entrance on one side, we could have a name for another entrance and office. So we can use more than one name.
Right.
Excellent idea.
I'll take my hand down.
And I will, there was a
I like
lot of
that too.
enthusiasm about other things as well. So I wondered if anyone from the housing group wanted to talk about what was said when we did that naming exercise around some of these.
And
I
if you
don't-
want to do St. Philip's, why can't you do St. Philip's Open Heart? And I like the idea about naming halls after individuals, like Diaz Hall or Alcina's Corner or something like that. But I agree, St. Philip.
Or even a version of St. Philip's is Phil's Place, you know, or maybe that's what the community will name it afterwards.
Oh, that's
We probably will.
So one of the things that came up in the housing conversation, and actually why we I think primarily came up with the names of people, is that for the larger community, I think both it's really awesome and important to identify active Black members of the community that have impacted our life together. And there's so few buildings named after Black people. So that's a part of it. One is, there was actually a ton of energy around Mother Alcina's name. And there was lots of talk around like Mother Alcina's place. We talked about Boozerville because of Alcina's last name. And, but I think a part of that is, Alcina is an incredibly recognized person in the community. And there's something important about highlighting the ways in which St. Philip's and the people of St. Philip's have impacted our community around us. And so I think that's kind of why there was so much energy around that particular name. I think it would be interesting. I'm just trying to think, whatever we do, it's going to be at St. Philip's. So if it's, the Diaz Court was one that came up. If it's Diaz Court at St. Philip's name will be in there. So that's something to just consider, is we want something that people in the community will feel a connection to that may not feel a connection to St. Philip's, and that will draw them into an awareness of St. Philip's as a community, as a parish. So we might actually want to distinguish between affordable housing and the parish part of us. I'm just putting that out there as a thought. So, and I see Bernadine, I see your hand up.
Yes. So for a moment, I went back to when I was in Houston, Texas, and
Well, I'm sorry, Bernadine, I muted you. I hit the wrong button.
okay.
Sorry.
Now I gotta start again. Okay. When I was in Texas, I noticed a lot of the medical buildings had names of people's names on them. And it was actually just their name, and that would show that that building has great importance, and this name on it has greater importance. So if we put Mother Alcina's whole name on a building, it would be absolutely wonderful, because that names that building, and put it up high enough where people can see it. And then everything else we do with the other names, we could use that in other parts of the building. So that building would be named after Mother Alcina, but use her whole name so they know who she is. And then we would just incorporate these other names into the building.
So far, I hear energy around using some version of St. Philip. And I also hear energy around Mother Alcina's name in some ways. Is there a lot of energy? Are there any other of the names, Diaz, Leo and Stone, or Absalom Jones? Is there some energy around any of those?
Leo and Stone, because Leo and Stone labored there for 37 years.
Mhm.
And he was very active in the community. He was active around when Emmanuel Hospital was doing things in the community. He encouraged people to go and sit in on those hearings and things, trying to avoid people being displaced.
Well, there's a connection.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, with Leo and Stone, I'm curious. So there is a preschool already named after him. Would that be a name that would work for something like, say, the Leo and Stone Memorial Garden? Like, because I really love Bernadine's idea of like naming different sections of it. Or, this could be Stone Court. So the affordable housing is Stone Court, St. Philip's is a parish, and the Memorial Garden is the Absalom Jones Memorial Garden, and the parish hall is the Alcina Boozer Parish Hall.
So let's what I'd like to do is
It's already named.
Yeah,
The parish hall is Father Stone Hall. It's already been named.
right.
Oh,
so that was the other thing I was going to ask is are there other places where these names appear in the community? Because if we're trying to get more than one name out, so we've talked about lots of things that were already named after Leo and Stone. It came up that there's some things being, some acknowledgement being given to the name Diaz, to Judge Diaz. No, is that?
Yeah,
They moved beyond that. They named that after Ida B. Wells.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay. I mean, Ida B. Wells is great, but so maybe we could take Leo and Stone off just because he's already got some other names, and that doesn't mean we can't name another part of things in there. Yes, Opal.
before you take Leo and Stone away from this project, just remember that that preschool was named for him while it was part of the church. And when they moved away, none of our community participates in that preschool. None of our kids go there. They're in a totally different community. And it's doubtful that they have anything to do with the historical piece of Leo and Stone other than his name.
Okay, that's good to know.
And so it's sort of disconnected from us completely. And we don't have anything at St. Philip that reveres his name as well. But I also think I'm sorry, what did you say?
Oh, Mother Alcina was saying the dining hall is also named after him.
Well, yeah, and so that's one consideration. And I think we need to have a woman's name on something of note in this community.
Amen.
amen. I'd like to just say something quickly. If we want a name that is recognizable to draw people in, I heard of Mother Alcina, and I knew of Mother Alcina way before I knew about St. Philip the Deacon.
Right.
So that would be something that would draw people in, I think.
Hope, you look like you will have something to say. No? All right.
Sarah.
Cynthia, and then Mom, aka Sue.
The importance of using Alcina's name and what the recognizability in the wider community is important. I think it's also important for us to present the idea that this is a living community.
A what?
So when we say an affordable living community, the idea is to bring the idea of sainthood into our daily lives. You know, we're all called to be saints. And, you know, people recognize Mother Alcina. I think the idea of the Leo and Stone Memorial Garden is lovely. I really like the idea of having St. Philip's name there. And I think it's really important to have a living Black woman recognized, connected with the church.
Right.
A lot of people know her as their principal, or they know her from other things, but there's something about having a living Christian presence in this endeavor. So that's what I'm hoping we can find some way to work that in. Although Mother Alcina was not real thrilled when we all started talking about using her name. And Mother Maria just said, too bad.
And the other thing is, years ago, Mother Alcina and Sharon and other members of the parish attempted to do something similar to this.
Yep.
And the economy did tricks, and so they had to abandon those plans. So it's consistent with what she has offered in the way of trying to increase livability and sustainability and housing for folks in the community. So I'm not opposed to that. I just don't know that Alcina Elaine Caldwell Boozer is gonna make it on the building.
No.
It'll be, the font will be
Sorry,
tiny.
I don't see Lena Elaine Caldwell Boozer in your contacts.
Oh, don't talk to me.
Well, and
You guys have acronym with her with the acronyms underneath?
apparently, wait a minute, apparently Elaine Caldwell Boozer, that part fell off.
Yeah.
Oh, and Boozerville won't work either.
No, definitely. That gets permission.
This is where I'm still seeing energy. It's sometimes painful to use the words that I'm going to remove somebody from the, because that feels, this is still where I'm feeling the most excitement, is on this side. Mom, yes.
I was just gonna, I've seen buildings named after two people. Like you could have like Stone Dash Alcina, whatever ending. I mean, so that it's not impossible that you couldn't have a building commemorated with two names. Or I'm not sure if I put that right.
So are you thinking,
commemorated with the
are
building?
you thinking Stone Boozer?
That doesn't ring well.
And there's a judge, so that'd just take it all the way over.
That's why I suggested Stone Alcina or something.
One of the things that I have heard is keeping the St. Philip name in the form of at St. Philip or of St. Philip. So that might be a possibility of a way to utilize both of them. I still want to make sure that does anybody object to the fact that we're on this side? I mean, I also heard a lot of advocating for Diaz prior, and Absalom Jones was just added to the list.
Folks who argued for Alcina have convinced me that Alcina Boozer should go on that building.
Okay.
I agree.
I mean, I have heard so much energy about it that I feel pretty confident in that decision. Is there anyone who disagrees that we can?
Let's just go ahead and canonize her now and be done with it.
You're awesome. So I'm going to actually take everything else off.
Okay.
Love this over here. So
and hold on. I'm actually going to put a stop to this right in the middle.
Huge.
Okay. So, and we're going to come back to this right after the meeting. I want us to keep moving forward. I think we have really great energy on it. I'd like us to sit with it for a little bit. We're going to finish up the meeting. We're going to pray about it a little bit. And then I would like us to continue this discussion afterwards, because I'm not sure we can totally make a decision, but I'm hearing energy. Are there any objections to me moving us forward?
No.
No.
Really great progress. It's awesome.
Yeah, this is really great. And I just want to note that I have written down all of the names that came up, and I think that idea of naming things is great. And I'm going to think about that.
They're not going into the trash bin. They're just going to something else.
Their emphasis may be shifted. So, okay, friends, let me just see where we're at. What was the next?
Reverend, could I just put in one quick thing? Gail asked a question about what your role was going to be. This is something that the vestry and you are we going to talk about at our vestry meeting, is what your role in the church is going to be.
Yes.
Okay.
And I do want to come back to that in the discussion.
No, thank you, because I have to go to another online meeting, but thank you for that. And I'll just look for an update later.
Okay.
Thank you, Gail.
Okay.
Friends, and with that, our annual meeting for 2021 is closed. However, because we can't really end anything, we do have a little bit that I would like to do to go back to the housing. So Sarah, would you like to have us do a little bit of that second part of thinking through the second part of naming this place? So stay if you can, and then we'll try to keep it to just short 5 minutes. If you have other thoughts, then we can just open it to discussion and people can come and go as they need to. You guys have been awesome for hanging in there. Thank you.
Before we start this, Bree had a thought to share in regards to this, and she's doing something right now, so I'm going to share it on her behalf. When we are thinking about a name for this place, it would be possibly useful to think about it in terms of the people that are going to be living there. So thinking about, is somebody's going to say, oh, I live at such and such a place. Is it going to be an enormous mouthful for them, or is it going to be it's something that sounds kind of snappy and like an interesting place to live?
Well, I wanted thank you for bringing that up. I wanted to note that we may end up with a longer formal name, but one of the things that we're going to want is something shorter and catchy that we can write in documents without having to write a really long name every time, and that will be the one that people refer to. So keep that in mind. That's partly why we were joking about Boozerville, is because the reality is people are going to nickname it, and we can get a little bit of control around the nickname by how we choose to refer to it. So Phil's Place or Alcina's house is one thing, and we'll talk about that. And so that's why this part of the conversation is actually really important, because it may give us that little bit of that catchy phrase that we can use shorthand. So Sarah, go for it.
Yeah, so I was going to say exactly what you said, but that's all right. So when we were talking about this, one of the things that came up, actually, we had a really interesting discussion about the use of mother in it, and just how that claiming that space is important. And so the names that were on were Alcina's house, Mother Alcina's place, the Alcina, an affordable living community. And so there's several different options to how we talk about it. I also have, a whole list of the other ones, Abode, Plaza, Oasis, Manor, Hall, Community, Village, and Court.
That's Stone's Throw.
Is there anything else that somebody would like to add?
Yes. Stone's Throw.
Stone's Throw.
Would that be Alcina's Stone's Throw? So we've sort of decided that we're sticking with Alcina. So whatever it is has to connect to.
Decided on sticking with Alcina. That does sound like a joke.
Oh no, I like the mother. I think it sort of gets that caring feeling, the Mother Alcina place. And I like the fact that we are trying to include Mother Alcina, because this community is dealing a lot now with its image of the gentrification and all that, and to keep a part of the African American community, and the name is very important in this community. So yeah, I'm thanking that you are doing this. So I like Mother Alcina's place.
I like that too.
So I'm gonna read off kind of what they were, just so you hear the sound of them.
you want me to share that slide again, Sarah, or no?
If you want to, all those
That's fine. You go ahead then.
just so we can see each other. So the Alcina, an affordable living community, Mother Alcina's place, Mother Alcina's house.
I don't like those.
Now,
I heard someone say they don't like those.
Don't like house, I think.
Don't like house.
I don't like affordable living. That's going to be a given. The affordable living is going to be a given, right?
Yes, so place is the one.
Okay.
Is it place? Isn't there a better word than place? That just sounds like place.
So why don't I read what it would sound like with something different? If we like the Mother Alcina piece, yes?
Plaza.
We have Mother Alcina's plaza, place, plaza, oasis,
Corner.
manor, Mother Alcina's manor, Mother Alcina's hall, Mother Alcina's community, Mother Alcina's village.
I like village too.
Okay, now I'm going to do something. I want to do something else here because I want to shorten it because that's what people are going to do. Like we can call it Mother Alcina's blah, blah, blah. But here's what it's going to sound like when people talk about it. Alcina's abode, Alcina's plaza, Alcina's oasis, Alcina's manor, Alcina's commons, Alcina's place, Alcina's hall, Alcina's village. What did any of those catch you? Just listen to them. What catch
Village and commerce sounds
like place.
Village.
Commons was one of the ones that the housing group talked about, but we're concerned that that's kind of been overused in the community.
It is, okay.
I'm happy to put it back on there. If someone
No, I'm the only one that said that. Okay. What about village? Because it takes a village to raise people. Place
is manor.
Just smaller place.
But also think about how this would feel like if you were living there. Would it feel like we took off house? But I was thinking like I'm staying in Mother Alcina's house. Does that mean I'm staying, in the basement or renting out a room?
Place.
What also feels
place?
So these are the three that have come up repeatedly. I hear place, plaza, or village.
Village has a good connotation to it.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't like place. Place is too common.
Place is probably going to be used by the folks.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're not going to use village. That sounds like the country to urban people. They're not going to use that.
Actually, I was thinking about village in, the whole "it takes a village." That is a kind of both a part of our language. I hadn't.
That's where I was coming from. Yeah.
Well, it is part of it, but when people talk about where they're going, I'm going around to Sunny's place, or I'm going over to Opal's place or Maria's place, rather than Maria's village, or people don't say that. I understand what.
Yeah. Well,
how you attach village to it, but I don't think people will refer to it that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think a part of it is how do we want it framed for people? And I guess one of the things I kind of like about village, a village isn't just where people live, it's also where people shop. It's where people go and hang out. There's like things that you do together. It's a little bit more. And I wonder if that might capture some of our hope that we are it's not just that we're a church and a housing place, but that we're a community center, that people come and use our space. I don't know. I mean, and I think you're right, Opal. We can't totally control what people call it, but we may be able to sort of frame, like, here's how we think about it.
Well, somehow community was on that other list, but it didn't make it to this last list.
Which one?
Community was on the last list, but it didn't make it to this one.
It was on the sort of side list.
Right.
But I just heard community come up again, so I put it back up here. And then I see Bernadine has her hand up.
Manor, Mother Alcina's manor.
One for this.
I think of a manor fancy up on the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And if you this may be a manor for someone who's living on the street, but I wonder if it doesn't sort of point out the discrepancy perhaps between what we regard, what people oftentimes think of as a manor, as opposed to what we're trying to do, which is to give people housing.
Well, I see manor as a large house where people do reside, the manor. So that if we're going to make it short, but make it a thing. It's Alcina's Manor.
Okay, so why don't we do a really quick straw poll for folks and see, thumbs up if you really like it, thumbs sideways if you're maybe, but thumbs down if you feel like you really want to throw it out. So Mother Alcina's Place.
I don't like that.
Okay,
Can someone count for me?
That's just sideways for me.
Pat, you need a thumb. Pat Walker, you need a thumb up or down. Not a, there we go, or sideways.
Okay.
Sideways.
Mother Alcina's Plaza.
I don't like that.
What's the second one?
Which one was that?
Plaza.
Mother Alcina's Plaza.
Plaza. Well, you have to answer Plaza, so.
Yeah,
Plaza.
I can go sideways.
I can do that.
Mother Alcina's Village.
I like Village.
I like Village.
Mother Alcina's Community. Mother Alcina's Manor.
Well, I like that one, so I put my thumb up.
How about
Okay.
Mother Alcina's
All
Port?
right, so the only ones that actually got a significant amount of thumbs up were these two.
Place and Village. Jerry, I'm sorry, I'm muting you, Jerry. It's too, there's too much. Something's
That's
wrong.
sort of like place, because then the acronyms are MAP, MAP. Mother, yeah, I could be for making affordable housing prevalent or present. You know what I mean? You could tie in a lot. Plus, place ties you to some place that you're going to get services and help. You know what I mean? You can live in a village like they have in the homeless camps, but this is actually going to be a place of services that they're coming in here to be able to move forward with something. So that's why I sort of like the place. That's my comment.
That's great. That's helpful. Other thoughts on either one of those? That's great.
Yeah, to MAP.
Charlotte apparently liked that idea quite a bit.
Let's call it Mother Alcina's Porch.
Porch? Well, that's kind
Or
of
the, porch.
You said porch? Oh,
porch has not come up.
Look at it, Alcina's face.
Is that because I threw you off the porch when we were kids?
That's right. That's right.
Always wanted to get back on
rolling
that
you
porch.
off one at a time.
So how does porch sound? Like, I mean, in terms, like, how does it feel? What's your, if you heard Alcina's porch, because that's what they're going to call it, Alcina's porch, what does that say to you?
Place to hang out, watch
They
out.
they don't have a place.
It's the same acronym, MAP.
Yep.
Yeah, but to me, that suggests that there is a porch somewhere, and that goes back to architecture and where you're going to put that.
Uh-huh.
Anywhere.
Yeah. Yep.
Might open the door.
Just put a rocking chair out front and
It may mean that we need rocking chairs inside then, huh?
How you just spit.
One thing, I just want to say one thing. The way, when we're talking about things, about what words to put on the end of it, there is a difference in our ages.
Yeah.
I've noticed that. I sitting here listening, I noticed that all the older people like it one way, and the younger people, as they go down, they add it, because that's the way people talk nowadays. And so, that's one of the things. So that's why it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard.
Hope, tell me what you hear the older folks liking and the younger folks liking.
Well, they don't like Opal. She's older folks. You can tell.
I thought you were talking about me.
She thinks like older people.
Actually, Hope, I don't like any of the names really. I would, if we're talking younger, more contemporary folks, crib, flat, those are other words. So you got to come up with
those are way young.
Well, I wanted to point out too that like,
Okay.
I was just making a statement on the way
Everybody pause. Everybody pause. Zoom is very hard this way.
So I want to say
what you were saying.
No, I was just saying that there is a difference in the way we're talking. I've noticed that the way we look at things, because, and it's definitely an age difference. I can see that by, I may be the oldest person around here. I know I'm the oldest one, but there's things that really bother me, but I know that people talk differently now.
So Sarah,
and that was just a statement. It had nothing to do with what I like or dislike. It was just an interesting statement I had to make.
Well, I just want to point out that we're talking, like, thinking more about naming. If you're thinking about it, you're naming an apartment complex, you're naming a building that has a lot of different things going on. So it's not just your personal home. I think that's the problem. One of the problems that I had around Mother Alcina's house was that it was like, well, wait a minute, it's my house within this complex. And so also thinking that we're talking about the larger picture here. And I just want to put that out. And I think that actually all of these, say maybe porch because of the complicatedness of that, but both of those fit that piece in my mind. So I want to just go out there. Are there anything that we had taken off that you feel needs to be on here again? And then I also wanted to go back to what Hope said, because I still didn't hear from Hope what, I didn't see it when I was sort of just tracking thumbs. I wasn't tracking whose thumbs were up for what you did notice that the generationally people were going for differently.
Well, I do notice, like you're younger, and I've noticed just some of the things that you say are what younger people would say. That's what I mean. That's all I meant. Didn't mean anything.
Give an example.
Give an example. Okay, put your board back up there.
Okay, let me get it. Let me spotlight it again.
Yeah, where'd that thing go? Oh, there it is.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, when you talk about a plaza, people that are more in a certain age will say plaza as opposed to place. You know, people that are older tend to go more to things like place. The village now has changed. It is no longer considered just a village. When you say a village used to be a village of people. Now it's considered like at the market. You can go to the market store and something village. They didn't used to name things like that back when I was young. Yeah. They didn't name things like that. So that's all I'm saying.
Yep. No, that's great. That's helpful.
Yeah. So that's what we got to. That's what we have to.
When I took ones off,
we keep going back and forth. I've noticed everybody keeps going back and forth.
Well, and the names I took off were ones that only one person. If only one person had a thumbs up, I just took it off for our help moving through the process. But I mean, I'm happy to, if someone wants to argue for a different one, to put it back up. But I think that it's helpful to move us forward to sort of eliminate some of them. That doesn't mean that some of them won't rise up again.
I thought I saw Aaron and Bree unmute at one point.
So I feel like in the age nomenclature conversation, like when I first read that list, the Alcina was what stuck out to me, because that's how I see housing complexes named. Like, you know, I can't think of one off the top of my head for some reason right now, but just really simple. The Wexler or
the Elliott.
Yeah.
Honestly,
lots of
what it's gonna get called is Alcina.
Henry.
Just the Alcina.
Yeah, but it's gonna get shortened. You know, no, doesn't matter if we put village or plaza or whatever. It's gonna get shortened.
Then,
I'd like to say something about that if I can.
Please.
That was my suggestion after listening to a lot of great ideas. And to me, somebody said the tagline, "An affordable living community is given." Well, it's given to us because we've been working on it for years. But if you're going to put this in grants, if you're presenting it to the city of Portland, if you want to embody the mission of St. Philip, calling it an affordable living community, each of those words is packed with energy and meaning. So it's affordable. This means we're not out to make a killing in real estate. And it's for people who need affordable living. It's a living community. It's alive. It's vibrant. And it's a community, not merely a flop house where you get your little cubicle. It's actually, you're part of something where you have the possibility of being part of something. So the idea of calling it the Alcina was to keep it short and to focus on what's recognizable in the community. Alcina is an unusual name. And my son said, "Oh, affordable living community, how do you spell Alcina? A-L-C. You know? So the idea is to keep it short, but to embody energetically in that name something that speaks to people who are not familiar with what we're trying to do here." So that was what arose for me in our meeting, and I just wanted to give you that background. Thank you.
I made that statement, Cynthia, and I made that statement because usually in these facilities, they do have automatically have that posted somewhere, don't they? Isn't that posted on the building automatically?
It may.
Yeah,
it may
we can do that.
Yeah, it's always on the building, I thought. That was why I made that statement. That's why I didn't feel it needed to be in the title.
Sure. I get you, Pat. And I was coming from the grant writing and from the funding idea that when you include that, so many places, you're right, they'll say John Smith, a senior retirement community,
yeah,
or whatever. You're right. It doesn't have to be said every time, but for formal purposes where you're trying to project the meaning of the place, when you say Mother Alcina's place, when the word place to me, I think of a bar.
wow.
That's why Boozer Place works for me.
So does Mother Alcina.
Jerry's hand is up. Jerry, do you want to say something?
I just said that so does Mother Alcina think of a bar.
Okay, I'm going to share a quick slide here really quick that I've been putting together as we've been talking. And then Sarah. Okay, so this is what can I present this one slide? Yeah. Can you see that?
Yeah, you're missing Village is still on there. Like enough people have liked Village that
okay.
It's on there.
Let me go back, sorry. Okay, so, all right, Sarah, I'm gonna leave this to you. You're facilitating, not me.
Yeah, so I think that we could vote right now. I think that adding an affordable living community or affordable living community, I think that maybe that's a second add-on conversation, as in of St. Philip's. I think that maybe, but let's think about what they're going to shorten it to, or what people are going to. So it could be Mother Alcina. Think about how this sounds. So the Alcina, it could be Mother Alcina's place, Mother Alcina's porch, or Mother Alcina's village. Those are the kind of the places that I haven't heard complete and total, I mean, other than the idea that that place is a bar, people fully rejecting any of these things. But the secondary ending, we can talk about in a moment, whether it would be an affordable living community. Also, the Deacon, I mean, we can make it longer for the purposes of grants, for the purpose of the sign, but thinking about kind of that short piece. Opal, I saw you had a hand up.
I'd like to offer one more,
Please.
complex. And that's based on the designs. There appeared to be two buildings, or at least an L-shaped building, which would suggest two wings so that you could do whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, complex.
Point out that there was a talk of sort of generational divide around almost all of these words, and that almost all of the words didn't fit with the older community people here, and yet I also hear people advocating for it. So I'm not sure it's a fully generational, but I want to make sure that it's something that everyone's comfortable with as well. And we may just have to, so I wanted to open it also up to things that would work well for folks instead of wouldn't for a moment.
I'll be honest, I would like something catchy. I would like something that is short, sweet. People could just say it right off. I think that in terms of being able to talk about ourselves in the community, I think actually that's really important in a kind of soundbite world. Long, complicated names don't go over so well.
Nope.
There's also the possibility.
The tagline name could be longer, but I actually kind of like the Alcina. I forgot about that one.
That's good.
There's also the other possibility is to just do Mother Alcinas.
Yep.
Doesn't have to have an ending.
I really wanted to point out that there was a really profound discussion around the use of the word mother as a space claiming thing in Mother Alcina's life. And that's one of the reasons, if you hear me advocating for mother, it's from that conversation about that being really an important piece. And so I am not hearing any energy around place, like around that extra word, but I do see people's faces lighting up when we talk about Mother Alcinas or the Alcina.
I like the Alcina. That's
Yeah, the Alcina.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Sue, you look like you have something to say.
One of the things that was brought up was that Mother Alcina is well known in the community, not just at St. Philip's, but in general.
Yeah.
Is she known, but when you get into the general, is she also known as Mother Alcina?
Yes.
Because I think that would, adding that would convey something that, I mean, she's a unique person, and that's a unique part of her life. And one of the many ways that she has influenced the community. So it might be worthwhile keeping that.
Or we could call it Madre Alcinas.
I ask her, Madre.
And then her license plate will be framed in the hallway.
Madre.
Yes.
Mother Alcina, do you have an opinion? This is your moment.
Okay, well, right now I'm feeling that I will be dead and gone by the time you guys get this settled.
I have told you about trying to claim God's work. I've told you about trying to claim God's work. You may still be here when it's completed, so stop that.
I know. Maybe not the discussion. So, all right, vote.
Okay, what are we voting on now?
Alcina or Mother Alcinas? Because I really feel like everybody, let's just not mess with the other stuff. So how about the Alcina?
The Alcina. I like that.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Okay, I'm gonna count. I'm just counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay.
Mother Alcina, and then I want to ask Jerry and Margaret after this. So Mother Alcina's.
Can we vote twice?
Yeah, why not?
4. Okay, so 10-4,
What are you
Jerry
voting
and
on?
Margaret, and I have abstained
Okay.
because I'm very torn. Jerry and
And I have
Margaret, I'm gonna
abstained.
unmute both of you. If everyone cannot talk for Jerry and Margaret because they're a little fuzzier, and just let's give them a moment. Jerry, would you like to
I
vote?
voted for Mother Alcina. Against my better judgment, it should have been called Alcina's little brother.
Right, okay. Okay, so that's 10-5.
Well, that's who you are.
Margaret, would you like to contribute?
She needs to unmute.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, that
Hello?
Can
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
now we can.
Well, I'm just going to have to go back to the one that really catches me is the living community. Alcina's living community. I like that. So I'm going to abstain from everything else. You guys go ahead and make your decision.
Okay, well, hold on, Margaret. I'm not going to let you off the hook quite so easily. So the living community part, I think that is still on the table as a tagline. And I actually think it might be important to add that.
Yeah.
The question now is between the Alcina and Mother Alcina for the kind of the shortest name. Know that, frankly, I'm going to make sure that we get Alcina's full name on that building or in the official documentation in some way, as well as a history of the fact that she's the first African-American woman ordained in the Diocese of Oregon. So we can do a lot with this, but short name of those two names, which do you have a preference?
Well, in terms of working with companies and getting grants and things, the Alcina living community might be a little bit better. But if, colloquially Mother Alcina's, it's a hard choice to make.
Yes.
I'm sure you guys are going to do fine.
Okay, so you've got a 10 to a 5 and a 1.
And Willie wanted to add his vote as the Alcina.
Okay, so 11 for the Alcina, 5 for Mother Alcina, and 2 abstentions. 2 vague not sures.
Well, it sounds like the Alcina takes it.
Okay, all right.
And I think we have to remember that Alcina has had many roles in the community. It's not just the church.
Yeah.
School, the community. So he's covered a lot of areas.
When I was actually marching with her in the Good and the Hood, mostly what I heard was Mrs. Boozer.
Right, from
Not Mother
Jefferson
Boozer, but Mrs. Boozer.
Education.
Because Mrs. Boozer, she was in the principal role at that point, and that's
Yeah.
how she's known. So, okay. So I think right now you guys have been awesome. This has been a long meeting and a great conversation. How about this? Let's go with the Alcina, and then I think could we leave the discussion of a tagline to the housing committee? I think that if anybody has any input or strong feelings about that, please let me know. But I really like that, an affordable living community.
Yeah.
I think those words are really well chosen, Cynthia.
Hold on a minute.
Getting Mother Alcina's full name, the Reverend Mother Alcina Elaine Caldwell Boozer will be a part of it somewhere in our formal documents of incorporation piece. So the last thing I just want to touch on is the vestry is going to talk about my role full time. I would love it if you could give input to vestry members about what you would like. I'm not promising that I can deliver all of those things, because I hope you heard it when I said affordable housing may take 20 to 30 hours a week. Yeah. And I'm hoping to spread that out. But if I'm the one who's sort of the central logistical person for that's a big amount of time. But I want to hear what you think is important for the community. I can tell you that I'd really like to start teaching again. And I've talked with some of the folks who've been really interested in Bible studies about starting a Bible study. I miss teaching. And so I'd really love to be able to do that. So please give feedback about that. But that is something that the new vestry is going to talk about.